Right then, pull up a chair, grab a pint or a cup of tea if you're feeling proper, and let me tell you about a fellow who was, in essence, the original influencer, but with more elephants and less avocado toast. We're talking about Phineas Taylor Barnum, or as he liked to be known, P.T. Barnum. The absolute maestro of mayhem, the sultan of spectacle, the bloke who practically invented the idea of going viral before anyone even knew what a virus was, let alone the internet. This ain't just a history lesson, mind you. This is a deep dive into the man who taught America how to have a good time, even if it meant bending the truth into a pretzel and deep frying it. Think of him as the cheeky pub landlord of American entertainment. Always got a story, always got a wink, and always leaves you wondering if what you just saw was real or if you just had one too many. Now, Barnum, born in Bethel, Connecticut, back in 1810, didn't exactly come from a line of dukes and duchesses, did he? More like a line of folks who knew the value of a hard-earned shilling. His family was about as well off as a one-legged man in an arse-kicking contest, and when his old man shuffled off this mortal coil, young Phineas was left to fend for himself. And fend he did, starting with a general store. But, bless his cotton socks, selling dry goods was about as exciting to Barnum as watching paint dry on a particularly beige wall. No, our PT had a twinkle in his eye for something more. Something spectacular. His big break, his true baptism by fire into the glorious world of humbug and hoopla, came in 1835. He splashed out on an elderly enslaved woman named Joice Heth. Now, Joyce claimed to be a whopping 161 years old and, get this, George Washington's nurse. Can you imagine the buzz? Barnum, being the absolute genius he was, didn't just trot her out on stage. Oh no. He spun a yarn, a magnificent, utterly unbelievable yarn that had people queuing around the block, elbows out, desperate to catch a glimpse of this living, breathing relic of American history. It was pure, unadulterated marketing genius, a masterclass in making something out of, well, acclaim. This wasn't just entertainment, it was a societal event, a grand performance that set the stage for everything that was to come. He was blurring the lines between what was real and what was merely a suggestion, and he was bloody brilliant at it. And let's be honest, in terms of moral clarity, what was his goal there? To make a buck, plain and simple. Were there ethical considerations? Absolutely. The commodification of a human being, especially an enslaved one, is a glaring red flag in our modern lens. But Barnum, at that moment, was purely operating on the purpose of profit, driven by an almost childlike belief in the power of a good story to part a fool from his money. He wasn't thinking about moral dilemmas. He was thinking about ticket sales. Right, so he's got a taste for the theatrical. He's seen the power of a good story, and he's got a pocket full of coin from Joice Heth. What does a bloke like Barnum do next? He goes bigger. Always bigger. In 1841, our man opens Barnum's American Museum in New York City. Now, this wasn't your dusty, quiet museum where you whisper and pretend to understand ancient pottery. This was a carnival, a menagerie, a chaotic celebration of the weird and wonderful. You had everything from taxidermied mermaids, spoiler alert, they were usually monkey heads stitched onto fishtails, to genuine curiosities. It was like a real-life TikTok feed, but with more sawdust and fewer dance challenges. And the star of the show, the absolute darling of the American public, was a pint-sized wonder named Charles Stratton, or as Barnum brilliantly rebranded him, General Tom Thumb. Now, Tom Thumb was a dwarf, and Barnum, with his usual panache, turned him into a national sensation. He taught him to sing, dance, impersonate historical figures. They even went on a European tour, hobnobbing with royalty. Queen Victoria herself was apparently quite charmed by the general. Barnum's promotional strategies were, for the era, revolutionary. He didn't just put up a sign. He wallpapered the damn city. Posters, billboards, newspaper ads that were more hype than truth. He was a master of the clickbait headline before clicks were even a thing. He understood that exaggeration wasn't just a tool, it was an art form. Some people tutted, some people rolled their eyes, but everyone, and I mean everyone, was talking about Barnum and his museum. He was the original purveyor of fake it till you make it, but he often made it. This museum was a crucial step in the evolution of American entertainment. It moved beyond just simple performances to a full-blown immersive experience. He was essentially creating a prototype for what we now know as the theme park, albeit with a lot more bearded ladies and fewer roller coasters. Now Barnum's ultimate masterpiece, the one that cemented his legacy as the Greatest Showman, came in 1871. He joined forces with a shrewd operator named James Bailey, and together they birthed Barnum and Bailey's Greatest Show on Earth. This wasn't just a circus, it was an institution. It was a sprawling nomadic city of wonders, packed with acrobats defying gravity, clowns causing chaos, and exotic animals that people had only ever seen in books. Elephants, lions, tigers, oh my. They revolutionized the circus industry. Before them, circuses were often smaller, more regional affairs. Barnum and Bailey turned it into a national phenomenon, a grand spectacle that toured the country, bringing wonder and excitement to every town it visited. It became a staple of American culture, a place where families could escape the mundane and witness the extraordinary. It reflected the American spirit of ambition, of pushing boundaries, of daring to be different. It was, quite simply, an absolute riot. Barnum's marketing genius, as I said, was unparalleled. He's famously, or perhaps infamously, quoted as saying, "There's a sucker born every minute." Now, whether he actually said it, or if it was just attributed to him, the sentiment perfectly encapsulates his philosophy. He believed in the public's insatiable appetite for novelty, for the unbelievable, for anything that promised a bit of razzle-dazzle. And he was more than happy to provide it for a price. His advertising was a masterclass in generating buzz. He'd put up posters so big they practically covered entire buildings, billboards that screamed for attention, and he even manipulated newspaper articles to create news around his upcoming shows. He understood that the story behind the spectacle was just as important as the spectacle itself. He didn't just sell tickets, he sold dreams, myths, and the promise of something you'd never seen before and might never see again. Now get this, Barnum was a strict proponent of temperance, meaning he was dead against alcohol consumption. Yeah, the Greatest Showman, the king of grand illusions and fantastical stories, was a teetotaler. Imagine that. The man who built an empire on delightful deception was utterly straight-laced when it came to booze. Goes to show, doesn't it? You never truly know what's going on behind the curtain, even with the Greatest Showman. But here's where it gets a bit murky, doesn't it? Barnum's methods, while incredibly effective, were often steeped in controversy. We're talking about the ethical tightrope he walked with his freak shows. On one hand, you had individuals like General Tom Thumb, who became incredibly wealthy and famous under Barnum's wing. He was a bona fide celebrity, touring the world, meeting heads of state. For him, Barnum provided an opportunity that might not have existed elsewhere, a platform to be celebrated rather than ostracized. But on the other hand, many performers, especially those with physical differences, were objectified, exploited, and often sensationalized for public consumption. They were labeled as freaks, reinforcing societal prejudices and reducing complex individuals to mere curiosities. The bearded lady, the tattooed man, the Siamese twins, these were real people with real lives, often presented in ways that played into public fascination and, let's be honest, often pity or discomfort. So, what was his purpose here? Was it genuinely to give these individuals a platform, or was it purely for profit? It's a bit of both, isn't it? He saw an opportunity and he took it. From a moral clarity perspective, it's a tough one. Did he act with integrity? Perhaps not in the way we define it today. His actions certainly generated immense wealth, but at what cost to the dignity of some of his performers? It's a prime example of a trade-off: financial success versus ethical treatment. Could it have gone differently? Absolutely. Could he have presented these individuals with more respect, focusing on their talents rather than their physical differences? Perhaps. But then it might not have been Barnum enough for the insatiable appetite of the 19th century public. It's a reflection of the societal norms of the time, where such displays were widely accepted, even celebrated. Now, Barnum's influence, bless his audacious heart, stretched far beyond the canvas of the big top. He didn't just create entertainment, he sculpted American culture itself. His blend of spectacle, relentless marketing, and compelling storytelling became the blueprint for countless entertainers and entrepreneurs who followed in his footsteps. Think about it. Reality television, modern circuses, massive theme parks, you can see Barnum's DNA splattered all over them. The blurring of lines between what's real and what's a manufactured spectacle, that's pure Barnum. He taught us to embrace the wonder, even if it came with a generous sprinkle of balderdash. And it wasn't all just about selling tickets and making a buck, either. In his later years, old PT actually dabbled in philanthropy and civic engagement. He served as the mayor of Bridgeport, Connecticut, and was instrumental in establishing a public library there. So, the man who once famously said, "There's a sucker born every minute," also believed in giving back to the community. Complex character, our Barnum. Like a perfectly crafted illusion, there were layers to him. So, what have we learned from the life and times of P.T. Barnum? He was a pioneer, an innovator, a genius of marketing, and yes, a bit of a scoundrel. His legacy is a chaotic tapestry woven with threads of admiration and criticism. He showed us the power of imagination, the allure of the extraordinary, and the timeless human desire to be entertained. He taught us that a good story, even if it's a tall one, can capture the public's heart and pocketbook. And in today's world, where spectacles are everywhere and the lines between reality and curated content are as blurry as a drunk man's vision, Barnum's story is a cracking reminder of the power of showmanship and the ethical tightrope that often comes with it. Stay curious, stay sharp, and stay just sober enough to remember it all. This was just a swig of history, and if it wasn't in your textbook, it bloody well should have been. And before you go, do a Broove a favour and like, share and subscribe.